Welcome, everybody, to Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Indiana Basketball Weekly, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I would like to welcome in my co-host, Kent Sterling. How you doing, Kent?
I am beaten but not broken, Mike.
Really?
I don't know. You watch Indiana play like that, and you watch Archie seemingly do the same thing game after game and expect different results, and you start to really question a whole lot of things.
Yeah. And today, what I question is the lack of the ability to rebound.
Yeah, 11-4 on the offensive glass in favor of Ohio State. They took 14 more shots. You're not going to beat a team on the road, a competent team on the road like Ohio State, given those numbers. And then you factor in what Indiana did, right under its own bucket, trying to score it. And, you kind of wonder what in the world is going on in these guys' heads where they can't convert simple two-point shots.
Yeah, the one that stood out to me was where Ohio State blows a couple layups in a row. IU gets it. They can cut it under 10 with like 4 minutes left. And then I think Joey Brunk missed a layup with nobody around him.
Yeah, and there was a really nice drive by Justin Smith where Smith gets to the bucket and it rims out. Sometimes you're playing good luck, sometimes you're playing bad. But in the Big Ten on the road, you better make your own luck if you're going to win.
Yeah, and underneath was what had to be disappointing today. If you look at the starters underneath, Joey Brunk, 1 for 3. Justin Smith, 1 for 4. Trace Jackson Davis, 2 for 6.
Yeah, that's not good. And you couple that with what the backcourt did in the previous game at Penn State, and you really see a team that's got no offensive identity, can't really count on anything to go get you buckets when things are getting a little bit tough. And because of that, you see like the two more expanses of major minutes during the first half where Indiana couldn't convert a field goal.
Yeah, and that seems to be the problem here. Because good teams will have a 4 or 5 minute period where, they can't score and their defense keeps them in. But it's hard to do this when you have 2 or 3 periods during a game where that happens.
Yeah, and it's I know you want to trust the offense, but I think they've become really easy to defend. If you looked at Ohio State today and you looked at Penn State the other day, you saw two defenses that really kind of did the same thing to Indiana, where they doubled the block and they didn't allow guards to kind of move the ball at their will. And that's been a recipe to beat Indiana forever and ever and ever. If you've got a defense that's good enough to extend on the wings and then double on the block, and you don't move the ball quickly out of that double on the block, you got a big problem.
Yeah, and I don't really play much into the plus-minus thing, but when you get a minus 13 from your point guard, Rob Bennessy, there's going to be issues.
Yeah, there's that. And then they really don't have a backup point guard. When they bring Devontae Green off the bench to kind of spell Rob, things go straight in the dumper. That's where really that first lapse of scoring in the first half sort of, got its momentum was when Finney came out. I think Indiana was stuck on 7 at that point and had been for maybe a half minute or 45 seconds. And Green comes in and the whole thing just kind of slogs to a stop, and you wonder exactly what's going on in the head of Archie Miller. He brought 3 guys in off the bench at the 15-minute mark or thereabouts. And what the hell are you going to get different today than you got different like the last 6 games? What are you doing? Why? Why are you doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result?
Yeah, and when you look at the stats, it actually looks like it was a close game. I mean,
yeah, right.
45% to 46%. IU shot 58% from three-point range, 7 for 12. They shot 78% from the free throw line, 13 turnovers to Ohio State's 10. I mean, the only thing that's glaring here to me is the total rebounds at 31 to 24, but second chance points is another one. Ohio State 8, Indiana nothing. Bench points, Indiana won 24 to 18. So if I would have looked at these stats before the game and you not told me to score, I would have thought there was actually a decent chance Indiana came out and won this game.
Or at least Indiana kept it close before Ohio State kind of extended it at the end to get that 9-point difference. But that's the exact opposite of what actually happened. Indiana, I think, got some good fortune from beyond the arc. Certainly that end of half three-pointer from Devontae Green from half court, but underneath they just couldn't get it done. And when you can't make layups, you just can't win. This was, I don't know, it was entirely predictable. I had a bunch of people say, look, if you don't take Ohio State and give the 7.5, you're out of your mind. But if you did that, you might have felt pretty good with a couple of minutes left and it's 16. But at the end, it's a 9-point loss for Indiana. And, hey, look at this. I'm throwing up a half-court shot to cut it down to 6. Would have ruined your day if you bet against Indiana. So that's why I don't gamble.
But you'd have won if you'd have listened to everybody.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's the story of my life, Mike. When I listen to people, I generally do pretty well. When I trust my own intuition, it all goes in the crapper, but that's the way it works.
Well, the other thing that stands out to me here, the stat that really leaps off to me is layups. Indiana was 7 for 15.
That's 16 points, right? You should be able to make.
That's 14. Come on, that's why you had those extra 2 years at IU. 7 times 2.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but you know what?
Well, no, that's 16 points. You're right. I went to
80
Indiana State. That's 8 missed shots, not 7. So there you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for apologizing. I appreciate your generosity.
Well, the scary thing is how quickly you said that I was right when I wasn't.
That's going back to my track record of being corrected properly by my wife.
Oops.
My wife tells me I'm nuts. I just say, yes, honey, and I move on with my day.
Yeah, mine does that too. And we all know that both of our wives are probably right there. Now what? Now what's the question, right? Because you got a week to get this thing fixed before you play Purdue at Assembly Hall. And if you don't win that game, this thing is going to spin completely out of control. That's a huge game. And you got a week to prepare for it. If you don't get that right, this is going to be, I don't know, hopefully another trip to the NIT. Hopefully?
Well, if they lose to Purdue at Assembly Hall, then I'm going to go ahead and assume they're going to lose to Purdue at Mackey. I'm going to assume they're going to lose to Illinois.
Yeah, but you said hopefully NIT. I would rather not go to any tournament.
I got you.
Yeah, I'd rather not go to any tournaments where I'm going there.
Well, that's the way they feel about the CBI and the CIT and whatever those C tournaments are. Yeah, they aren't going to pay their way into a tournament, I think, to their credit. But this is, the last 2 games were kind of predictable. I go back to that Maryland game as a game that really, you had to win that game. You're up by 6 with under a minute and a half left. If you get that one, then this one doesn't hurt quite as badly. And you're looking at a home game at Purdue to, stay over 500 at that point if you had beaten Maryland or get over 500. And now you're in a situation where if you lose to Purdue, you got to finish 5-3 to get to 10-10, which is kind of a reasonable place given Indiana's schedule in November. To think if they go 10-10, they're going to go to the NCAA tournament, getting to 10-10, having to finish 5-3. That's not easy. That's not if you predict that, God bless you. But you're seeing the world through kind of cream and crimson lenses.
Yeah, when I look at this, this is a team, no matter who they play, I can't say they're going to win. Just like I also can't say automatically they're going to lose. But my concern is you had the game at Nebraska, which I don't think they played really well, but they got a road win. They came home. They beat Michigan State. Everything's going fine. They come out slow against Maryland, but they rebound. They take the lead. They have the game won. This is my problem. They blew that game. And after that, instead of answering, they did the exact opposite and just kind of shriveled up at Penn State and shriveled up at Ohio State.
Yeah, this is not good. Ohio State with Wesson underneath and with Indiana hedging as hard as they do on screens out high, that Ohio State was really, really good and really well coached in that either Wesson had kind of an uncontested opportunity underneath, which he had early in the game, had those 3, and then all of a sudden you start kicking them out, and those inside-out 3s for a good shooter, they're not layups, but they're close.
Yeah, and when I look at this schedule, I don't know, Kent. I don't think this looks promising.
No.
I mean, because they should beat Purdue at home because I think Purdue's terrible, just like I think Indiana's terrible right now. But then you're playing Iowa. They're probably not going to win that game. They're going to play at Michigan and at Minnesota. Maybe they can split, but from what we've seen on the road, they probably can't, Kent. And then you're looking at 1-3 over those 4 games. You're going to play Penn State at home, and I think the one thing that stood out to me about Penn State, they're better than Indiana.
They are, but at Indiana, I'm going to take Indiana as a favorite in every home game, and I'm going to take Indiana as a dog in every road game. I don't know how they're going to win on the road. Michigan, Minnesota, they're not going to win at the barn.
So you would take IU. You would take IU as a favorite hosting Iowa?
Yeah.
You're nuts.
I'm going to go ahead and say Indiana's going to beat Iowa at Assembly. I think Indiana can win at Assembly Hall. I don't know that they can win on the road. They better shut it out at home. They better beat Purdue. They better beat Iowa. You really need to finish the season with those 2 potential wins that they've got against Minnesota and Wisconsin, and then you got a chance. But expecting this team to go on the road, and this is like the roadmap to the NCAA tournament, right? This isn't like necessarily what I would believe is going to happen. After watching the last 2 games, I don't know whether they're going to win another game. But if they're going to go to the NCAA tournament, they have got to win every single game at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, or they're not going to the tournament, because I don't believe that they can win on the road.
I think they could win accidentally 2 games on the road.
Wow.
But I think this. I think they're going to lose to Iowa at home. I think they're going to lose to Penn State at home. And with Minnesota, Wisconsin back-to-back, Minnesota and Wisconsin are probably going to be desperate to get in the NCAA tournament at that time, too, which is going to make those games even more difficult.
Yeah, and our conversation, I think, underscores what we see in the Big Ten, is that trying to predict one game and then another and then another and another is just crazy, because, like, other than Northwestern and Nebraska, I don't think that there's a team that any of the teams in the top 12 of the Big Ten can point to and say, well, this is a definite W. We're going to roll into Ann Arbor or Happy Valley or College Park or wherever and say, here we go. That's a win for us. And then we've really got to figure out how to win other games. Nobody's got those. We have no idea. Michigan State, I'm sure, didn't think that they were going to get beat by Purdue, Indiana, or Wisconsin. But they've gotten beaten by all 3 of those. And so who the hell knows in this Big Ten?
They haven't lost to Wisconsin yet.
Well, they haven't?
Not yet. The game's still going on. I'll get you a
Well,
score here.
People are going to listen to this, on DB. They're going to listen to this in a couple hours, and they're going to, we'll have projected it, and we'll look really smart.
Okay, but the problem with that is, if you're wrong, and right now Michigan State's went from 20 down to down 48 to 41 with 14 minutes yet left, so I'm just hedging our bets, Kent.
All right, I like it. I like hedging.
Yeah.
Me, I'm one of those long shot lovers. I stack all my chips on one number at roulette and take my chances and hope to hit the 35-1.
And so Butler's beating Providence 13-7.
Good. But Butler should win that game. Butler's a terrific team. When they finally, everybody's going to have little swales in a season, and Butler had theirs, which was really underscored as they got beat by DePaul up in Chicago. But I love the way Butler goes about its business, and they've entered. This isn't about Butler, but they've got 4 out of 5 at Hinkle coming up, and I love Butler at home.
Yeah, but since we're Hoosiers, we may need somebody to cheer for during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should talk a little bit more about Butler. So,
well, we could just start doing a Butler show if you want. But, yeah, right now with IU, I was to the point today when Devontae Green was in the game, I was just hoping he would shoot it every time because I thought that was our best chance if he just got hot.
And I, completely opposite of that, I would like to see Devontae Green on the bench.
Oh, I would have too, but if he's in the game, I want to see him shoot the ball.
Archie's got to do something different. Rick Venturi always says this, the old coach he was a head coach for the Colts, head coach for the Saints, defensive coordinator forever. he says that his dad always used to say, you've got to first out-coach the fans, or at least show the fans that you're trying to do something different, not expecting the same result. And yet Archie keeps doing the same thing again and again and again, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, but how about
to the
this?
point where,
what are you going to do?
It's like watching Joe Madden use his bullpen. It's like, what are you doing? What
really?
Do you think Pedro
Wait a
Strok's
second.
doing?
Wait a second, kid. You guys hadn't won a World Series in over 100 years. He won you a World Series, and you're still going to badmouth him?
Whoa.
Huh?
Yeah, he didn't win us the World Series.
He wasn't
the players won the World Series. Joe Madden committed complete malpractice with that bullpen throughout the series against the Indians.
But you won.
It was preposterous what he did.
But you won.
He wound up getting lucky, and he won it.
Hey, you know what? You guys got not lucky for 100 and some years in a row, so give the man a little credit. Jeez. I'll tell you what, this is why Cub fans annoy me. You all won the World Series, and you're still bitching about winning.
Oh, yeah. What they did with Aroldis Chapman in that bullpen, I think, was just absolutely ridiculous throughout the entire series. But you're right. That's a story for another day and another podcast.
I guess
but
we
Archie's
need to do a
gotta
baseball
do something
show.
Different.
Yeah, maybe we'll start doing like a National League Central show or something.
Perfect. But,
okay.
And you know, at least at that point, we're gonna have hope that David Ross and whoever the hell is managing the Reds now is going to be smart enough to utilize the bullpen correctly, or at least do something different in the face of failure again and again doing the same thing.
See, I'm pretty sure the Reds are just running away with the Central, so it didn't really matter what the Cubs do here.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to happen.
Optimism.
It's going to happen. Hey, you know what? I don't want to hear optimism from a guy whose team's won it once in 120 years.
Hey, we went to the playoffs. I say, because of course I was a season ticket holder.
You played second base at a couple of those games, didn't you?
Pardon?
You played second base at a couple of those games, didn't you?
You know, if I had, I think people would say, hey, this 50-year-old guy, this guy in his 50s from Indy, he's still got game. He still flashes the leather. He's still got the gun.
Okay, Ken. So let's go back to Devontae Green, because my problem with benching Devontae Green is who played well today? Who's been playing well? I mean, because all I saw was a bunch of guys that weren't getting it done.
Yeah, and he was in the first half he was terrible, and in the second half, toward the end of the game, he's a great mop-up scorer. You know, you give Indiana a 15-point deficit with 4 minutes left and give Devontae Green the ball, and magic is going to happen. But you put him in the game with 15 minutes left in the first half, and you're down 9-7. All hell breaks loose. All of a sudden, turnover, missed shot, and you're down 15-7. And that kind of thing just cannot happen again and again and again. Yeah, I don't mind it happening once in a while. That's okay. But if it happens every single time and Archie Miller keeps doing the same thing every single time, that shows that this guy either isn't processing information correctly, or he's not capable of coaching in game at a level where Indiana can expect to win games that they would otherwise lose.
So it sounds to me like you're no longer a fanboy.
Yeah, these people are insane. These people, hey, yeah, the cheerleader, the IU cheerleader. I'm less a cheerleader than anybody I've ever known. And to have people say that is just cockamamie. And that's why social media is so much fun, because you get a bunch of different perspectives and none of them are well informed. But with Archie, look, I mean, here's the deal. He's building the culture. This is about this year. This is about in-game stuff. You know, they're going to be better next year. His fifth year, we're going to see the fruits of his labor from building that culture and trying to get it right. So we do need to be patient. We do need to be a little bit circumspect in how we appraise him. But on a day like today, I mean, here come those three guys, and I like Jerome Hunter. I think Jerome Hunter is going to help him win a lot of games. But as far as Devontae Green and Deron Davis, like, what do you think you're going to get out of these guys that's going to lead you to a win? How's that going to happen? I don't understand the thought process.
And see, my problem with this whole thing is this. I want to be positive and say that, you know, next year will be the year because we get rid of these guys. But if you're going to build a culture, It's too late for that now.
Well, I think it takes a while.
No.
I, I,
Culture, this is
I
the thing. All right. Now, and I had a
yeah,
discussion with Randy Cross about this the other day off air. Culture to me is what you base your program on. And whatever you base your program on, whatever your culture is as a coach, if you
yeah.
ever deviate away from that culture to allow something opposite of that culture to happen and you don't squash it immediately, you have no chance for your culture to ever work.
You know what? And I agree with that. I think it's just really important to be able to get your guys in order to see the fruits of that labor. And Archie doesn't do it in games. He doesn't dress guys down. We don't see that kind of thing. But I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt until he's got his guys like there and in place, and we'll see what that brings.
That's all.
I think yeah.
That's all fine and good, but as a coach that is trying to instill culture,
Yeah.
if they don't want to play ball, they need to leave
Yeah.
because they infect your culture. And I think Archie Miller is a really good basketball coach. I don't know why he didn't just cut bait with everybody when he first got there and instill his culture. I don't know that. I don't know if that's his fault or somebody else's fault that wouldn't let him do it. But right now, when I watch this, and I watch a team give very little effort for 2 straight games after pissing a game away that they should have won, I mean, that to me is a major issue.
Yeah, I'm not going to make the assumption that there was no effort. You know what I mean? I think that that's an easy thing to say. I think that there's not a cohesive effort with that team. I don't see guys kind of, and we've seen it in the past, jogging back on defense and just not giving a damn, setting sloppy screens. I don't see a lot of that. I just saw a lot of poor execution combined with an inability to hit shots close up, an inability to hit layups. I don't think that necessarily this is an effort thing, but it's a I know it's a problem, and maybe I am being a little bit of a guy who's trying his best to figure out exactly, how I can be optimistic about Indiana and Archie Miller. Maybe I am a little bit guilty of that. I think that this next class coming in is going to help. I think the class after that can help if they get the right guys. If you get the guy from Blackhawk, the first kid, I think that that's a huge step in the right direction. And you're going to wind up with a bunch of kids who are committed to playing basketball the right way. And so I think it can still, I agree that there were different ways to do this. And one of those ways is to lay waste to everybody and shoot the first hostage. And, you're on your way. You've got everybody's attention. I don't know whether that's Archie not wanting to do that. I don't know whether that's Fred as an athletic director who's saying do not do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the new athletic director, whoever in the world he or she is, what that message is going to be to Archie. I'm just trying to keep my head above water as an IU guy who sees a lot of stuff that he doesn't want to see and is hoping for brighter days.
All right, now here's my take on the effort thing.
Yeah.
Effort is not just run around and dive in for balls. To me, a team that is giving effort does not do stupid, for lack of a better term, they don't do stupid shit. And this team does stupid shit. I mean, I can physically give effort. But if I'm not going to give mental effort, and see, this is the thing, teams that miss free throws, it's usually a lack of mental effort. It's a lack of concentration. A team that misses layups, it's a lack of mental effort, which is concentration. You have to be able to do both of those things. And this team, to me, mentally, the game against Maryland should have spurred them to come out and fight their asses off again in the next 2 games, and it didn't. So to me, my question is not physical effort. Anybody can dive around on the court, but can you dive with a purpose?
Yeah, I mean that, and right. But I do think on the other side, without being in there, and you know this from being a coach, we're not in the gym, we're not a cook hall with Archie and those guys. I think that effort can become, and your psychology during times of woe, you can become like mentally constipated at a level where it becomes very, very difficult for you to operate correctly, and you get very tight around the rim. And because you do that, you're not making free throws. You get very tight shooting free throws, and so they don't go in. Sometimes it's a lack of concentration. Sometimes it's just too damn much concentration, and people are trying too hard to do what normally should be very easy and reflexive.
You know, my daddy used to tell me there ain't such a thing as trying too hard. Or that was on one of the Archie Griffith, or one of the Archie, what's his name? Andy Griffith episodes that I was watching. Every time I start today, my son put like a TV with an antenna. You remember those, Kent?
Yes.
Out in the garage. And, you know, Andy Griffith was on. And I looked at him and said, "Oh, look, the Archie Griffith show." And he's like, "What's that?" I'm the only person that gets those two guys mixed up. But they are so similar. The way they're built.
They are similar.
Yeah.
You know, if you put Andy Taylor in the backfield for Ohio State back in the 70s and Archie Griffin is the sheriff of Mayberry, North Carolina, you'd have had two entirely different results.
Do you think Otis could be Woody Hayes? He looks like it, but he's kind of chilled out.
Yeah, that's perfect. Or the little mayor guy, he'd be terrific.
Yeah.
Floyd the Barber could be Rex Kern.
Now, Rex Kern was a lot better athlete than Floyd.
He was, wasn't he? He was one of the best athletes when I was a little kid when he was coming up. But man, as a quarterback for Ohio State, and then doing what he did as a DB in the NFL for the Rams, I mean, that was just what an amazingly good athlete he was.
Yeah, Rex Kern played on the '69 Rose Bowl team, didn't he?
I think so. You had that era where it was Manning and Phipps and Kern and Plunkett and all those guys quarterbacks simultaneously. It was kind of fun to have that be my first college football experience with a lot of guys who really wound up having quite mediocre NFL careers.
Yeah, but he had a really good college career. Because I'm pretty sure they won it all in '68 and beat O.J. Simpson, or O.J. Simpson won it all and beat Ohio State. I'm pretty sure he was the quarterback on that team, because he was the quarterback before Cornelius Green and all those other guys that came around. But, yeah. And let's see. Did he play for the Rams or the Colts? I thought it was
Kern?
The Colts. Yeah.
I thought he was with the Rams, but I could be wrong. I was a toddler.
Let's look it up. That's no excuse. All right. Yeah, he was selected in the 10th round by the defending NFL champion Colts, played cornerback and safety, played in all 14 games his rookie season, but only 5 in 1978. And then he had a reoccurrence of a back injury. He recovered to play a full season in '73 with 2 interceptions. And then he was done, it looks like, after 1974, where he played 8 games for the Bills. So it looks like chronic back problems are what kept him from eventually being a superstar for the Rams.
Well, there you go. I stand corrected. And who'd have thought that a podcast on Indiana basketball would wind its way to Rex Kern today?
I know, but that's what happens when you can't shoot the freaking ball or rebound or make free throws.
It was a well-deserved diversion from what has been just over the last week and a half misery to watch Indiana play.
But yeah, I know, and actually it's been misery since a long time ago, and maybe someday soon it won't. Hopefully that will come Saturday when they play Purdue. I mean, a week off.
They got a chance.
They got to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue can't score. Indiana can't score. This game could be played in the 20s. I'd take the under, whatever the under is. Take the under, because nobody's going to score the basketball. We'll, but it's going to be, and Knight's going to be there by all accounts. Finally, with all these fits and starts, Knight's going to go to the game, and then that night he's going to be honored with Gene Cady at the Pacers game. It's Basketball Day, Indiana. And boy, that'll be a hullabaloo until Indiana gets off to a slow start, and then we start throwing stuff again.
Yeah, but luckily they're playing Purdue, so it'll be 6-4 at halftime. Coach Knight will be asleep, and they'll wake him up after the game, which will be an Indiana win in triple overtime, 15-12.
Good Lord, we're going to turn back the clock to
It's going to look like the 1906
1915.
Indiana State High School Championship game. Maybe since it's basketball day in Indiana, they should put some old peach buckets there.
Oh, jeez. You know what? And that's not it's maybe it's easier to put the ball in the peach bucket from 2 feet out than it is to put it in an orange rim. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks difficult either way for Indiana. But,
Yeah.
Kent, you want to tell everybody where they can buy your book, Oops, which
Absolutely.
is now number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list?
It's phenomenally successful, and thanks to all the people who have purchased it. You can go to Amazon.com, search Oops and Kent or Oops and Sterling. Up it pops, and you can get the audiobook, which I voiced. That's 6 hours and 40 minutes of me telling stories, embarrassing stories about myself that you will find amusing or at least helpful. You can get the ebook, you can get the hardcover book, whatever you want, right there at Amazon.com. Just search Oops and Kent.
All right, guys. And you can follow Kent at Kent Sterling, right?
Yes, absolutely. On Twitter, you can yell at me there, send unsolicited direct messages to my inbox. I read every one and laugh at them all.
Yes, because Kent is a homer and an apologist for Archie Miller. That's just because most fans want to have Archie taken out and was it the guillotine or something right now because they're 15-7. So,
yep.
I will just say I'm just going to sit here and hope for the best.
And that's all we can do. That's in our power, Mike. We have no power over Joey Brunk hitting free throws or hitting layups, but we do have power over our own perspective. And so let's exercise that and not let this ruin our day.
Yeah, it's just a basketball game. It's just a basketball team. It's not life or death because this isn't the 1970s or 80s anymore.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Are we going to come back and do a preview show for Purdue, or you just want to wait till after the Purdue game?
Oh, no, we can preview Purdue. I look forward to that game. We're going to kick Purdue's ass.
All right. I hope so, too. And I think they will also. So you want to say Thursday?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. We'll go Thursday at 2:30?
Perfect.
All right. Thursday at 2:30, we'll preview Indiana's ass whipping of the Purdue Boilermakers. And then Saturday after the game, we'll talk about the ass whipping Indiana just gave Purdue. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. And I still think Indiana's going to the Final Four. And I'm Mike Goodpaster, and I'm not very smart. He's Kent Sterling, and his book's called Oops, so that'll tell you what you get into when you listen to us. So remember, come back Thursday at 2:30. But for now, for Kent Sterling, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.